Let me ask you a question. If you were to read a headline that said, young girl gets assaulted by much older male or, something like that, classic pedophilia shit, you know what I mean? How would you react to that? You would probably act with what normal people and a lot of rational, normal individuals would react with is, that is disgusting, this guy needs to be locked up and all sorts of other shit, you know what I mean? That's how a normal person would react to that. Now, what happens when a female predator finally gets caught and she is caught molesting multiple young boys? How would men specifically react to this? Now, I'm going to put this fucking disclaimer right here, right now. There will be talk of sexual assault, so if you are sensitive to this kind of information, maybe don't watch it, but I also think this is important to watch because this is a fucking huge issue in my humble opinion. This is a massive, massive fucking issue that leads to years and years of just mental disorders, just being fucked in the head. If you are, obviously, if you are sensitive to this kind of topic, maybe this video isn't for you and you should probably click off it. Just humble warning right here, right now. I probably should have put that in the beginning of the video. My apologies. Another disclaimer, when I say men, I don't mean all men, obviously. That is a ridiculous statement. This is just a very loud vocal subsection of men that for some reason, and I think to some degree at one point or another, it is all men because, guess what? We're all teenage hormonal boys. However, I'm going to get into that point later. I'm just saying, when I'm saying men, I do not mean all of them, okay? Now, let's move on. What happens when a female predator gets caught doing this kind of shit? Well, a lot of the comments, if you go on, if it's like a reel or a YouTube video or anything of the like, you will go into the comments section and you will see hundreds of comments saying how the boy is lucky or he's not a victim and whatnot. I actually have a few here that I could pull up, but before I do that, allow me to read you 3 headlines that I saw, but they were on Instagram, so take it with a grain of salt. I did look into them afterward and they are real pedophiles. So here is the first one. Breaking news: a woman with 72 IQ rapes 5 boys 12 to 15, 30 times. Now this case, I actually read into it a little bit. This one is a little strange. I would highly recommend you look into it. I don't remember her name. It's been a bit, but yeah, I do recommend looking into this case if you are interested, of course. It is a fucking crazy tale. The father vehemently defends his daughter. So yeah, if you want to look into that, you should probably do so. Next one. Teacher gets probation after raping student 17 for 4 hours. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, he's 17. That's close enough. Yeah, and you're a pedophile. Guess what? 17 is under the age of consent. That means he's a minor. Minors cannot consent no matter what. Absolutely no matter what. So yes, this is statutory rape. This one is the one that really fucking irks me because this is just downright evil and fucking disgusting. Mom, 43, arrested for raping daughter's ex-boyfriend 14 and getting pregnant. This one is fucking evil. This is disgusting. But anyway, those are the 3 headlines that I saw, or 3 videos, that I saw. And every single time I went into the comment section, it looked a little something like this. Obviously, I will be blanking the names and profile pics of these people because I have to. It's YouTube's terms of service. I have to. If I don't, then it's considered bullying and I get the video taken down or whatnot. So unfortunately, I have to hide these people's disgusting identities. But anyway, make sure you take a look, whenever I pull up a comment here, make sure you take a look at the likes. You know what I mean? There are people that like these comments and agree with these comments. You know what I mean? He's not a victim. He's a hero. Fucking disgusting. Oh, by the way, I got all of these screenshots, all of them, by the way, from the mom raping the 14-year-old. By the way, just want to put that out there because this one was truly heinous and I just didn't know how people would be able to defend this shit. But anyway, moving on. This guy, 5,352 likes. How do you rape a dude? Easy. You take advantage of one. That's basically what this whole thing boils down to, is taking advantage of a hormonal teenager. That's what this is. That's the whole fucking bread and butter of this whole thing. Poor guy. Should have been me. I don't know why you want to be molested as a young man. That just seems really. I don't understand why all these dudes want to be molested as moving on before I get into another. Well, I'm just gonna try and speed through these comments and then I'll get down to like the main reasons why I think people think like this and whatnot. At 14, why didn't I have a GF with a mom like that? bunch of emojis, 12,000, nearly 13,000 likes. Nearly 13,000 people agreed with this take. How fucking disgusting. Bro didn't get raped. He had the time of his life. I think he was more than willing. Just fucking disgusting. Absolutely fucking putrid. He had the time of his life. Fucking disgusting. Of course, you have the classic GIFs and memes of it should have been me, not him, or Denji hugging the TV screen being like, it should have been me, or he's so me for real, or whatever, some disgusting shit. But anyway, then after all that, like all the people that are just like openly wanting to be molested and just raped as children for some odd reason, I don't understand why. Actually, I do. To some degree, I think I have like a pseudo-intellectual take about this, because going off on a tangent. Okay, so then we have this next camp of people who are like, who try and use science to fucking like make this kind of shit acceptable to some degree. Like they're like, oh, yeah, no, boys and girls are different. Girls just don't have a sex drive until they're like 21. You know what I mean? They don't. They never have and they never will. Boys, however, on the other hand, we are always thinking about sex at all times. Even at the young age of 12, we're always thinking about that, man. Always, no matter what. So in reality, it's okay for us to do this kind of thing. It's okay for female predators to prey on innocent children. That's okay, basically, is what they're saying. And I'll give you an example. Now, it's actually quite normal for boys that age, 13 to 16, to be attracted to older, mature women, 18 to 45. There were a few. Now, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, every single comment was like this. There were a few out there that were like, this is disgusting. This is heinous. How are you defending this? This comment section's gross and shit like that. You know, normal people that have their frontal lobe working. You know what I mean? They're not single cell organisms like these fucking disgusting degenerates. But anyway, this was a reply to that kind of comment, and this guy's basically being like, oh yeah, no, it's normal for boys to be attracted to much older women, which I agree. It is absolutely normal. That's when you're 13 to 16 and whatnot, is when your hormones and your testosterone and all that shit's going fucking crazy. You know what I mean? It's going absolutely haywire. So yes, it is normal to be attracted to those kind of women. Obviously, yes. However, and this is gonna be a hot take, a real fucking hot take. Yeah. Female predators should not take advantage of that, okay? And grown adult men should not be making excuses for this kind of behavior, basically. So whenever they say something like this, like it's normal for boys to be attracted to that, so therefore it's okay for them to be molested, mentally destroyed, and just think that this kind of thing later on in life is perfectly fine, which leads to people like this, you know what I mean? They get sexually assaulted, they think it's perfectly normal and perfectly fine, so then it fucking breaks them mentally, because now they think in their head that sexual relations with a minor is okay as long as the minor is consenting. That is what they think. That is the bare minimum of what they think. Whether it's with young boys, young girls, it doesn't matter, because they think it's okay. So it mentally destroys them, and it leads to the people like this, basically. I'm not saying that all the people here that are advocating for this kind of thing have been sexually molested as children. I'm not saying that. I have no idea. But I can say with a high degree of certainty that those two things can be linked. There's no way they can't be. As I was saying, is that it is the responsibility of adults to not engage in sexual relations with people underage. It's really that fucking easy. Got all the comments out of the way. Got all of them out of the way. And I know there's not that many, but there were so fucking many comments like that on all three of the posts. By the way, all three of the posts all of them were very similar, and they all were talking about people. Another thing too. There were a few of them being like, oh, who snitched? Somebody snitched. They were basically they were saying that people around the victims just shouldn't say anything. They should just keep it going, let it happen for years and years to come. You know what I mean? They shouldn't say anything about it. Who snitched? Fucking disgusting. But I want to pose a question to the people who think like this, you know what I mean? Who think that because a teenage boy is hormonal and it has a lot of testosterone flowing through him and whatnot, that it makes it okay for a female predator to prey on these young men. Let me pose you a question, right? And this is a timeless classic of what was she wearing? Timeless classic of what was she wearing? What do I mean by this? By those, for those of you that don't know, well, a lot of these kind of guys will see a post about a woman being sexually assaulted or raped, and some of them will ask, what was she wearing? As if implying that as if the way she dressed mattered at all in this situation, which in reality it doesn't. It just comes down to a sick-minded individual that thinks that they are above everybody else and they deserve that kind of action, or they deserve that kind of thing. I'm not going to sit here and go into the mental philosophy of a rapist. I'm not going to do that. However, you are basically saying the exact same thing. What was she wearing? Oh, the boy was hormonal. You're just making it more okay, basically, is what you're saying. You're just trying to justify it. You're trying to justify rape, which is fucking crazy that we are doing that in the big 2-6. Technically, this was in 2025, I believe, but it's actually crazy to me how you will put these people have their faces as their profile pics, and they are posting these comments willingly. It is fucking disgusting. Now, I want to break down why I think a lot of guys think like this, including myself. I also thought like this when I was when I was a fucking hormonal teenage boy. Shocker. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely shocking. As I've said before, obviously all boys and probably a good amount of women or a good amount of girls have thought about this. You know what I mean? However, it is, as I've said, it is the adult's responsibility to not engage in sexual conduct with a minor. That is the one single task that us adults have. That is it. Well, obviously it's not it, but when it comes to this kind of thing. And it's really just that fucking easy. You know what I mean? It is really just that fucking easy. You just don't have sexual relations with a minor. That's it. That's all you have to do. Okay, now let's get into the reasons why I think a lot of people advocate for this kind of thing. And I think it's all porn brained. I think it's a lot of these guys that maybe they themselves are virgins and wish that they weren't. Let me get this out of the way right now. There's nothing wrong with being a virgin. Nothing wrong with it. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. Whether by choice or not by choice. You know what I mean? Sometimes the cards just haven't been dealt to you yet. And maybe you want to save yourself for marriage. Perfectly fine, perfectly reasonable. Or maybe you just don't like the idea of sexual encounters at all. Also valid, also perfectly valid. However, what we shouldn't be doing, as I've said a million times throughout this whole video, is we shouldn't be advocating for pedophilia no matter what. It's fucking disgusting. And I'm pretty sure it's because a lot of these people, a lot of these men have been, and this is a bigger issue in my opinion, this is not a bigger issue, this is a big issue as well, but a lot of these men have been exposed to pornography very early on in life. That is not a hot take. That is not something new. That is something everybody knows, and that young men specifically have been, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's not really indoctrinated. It's more like, okay, they have too much ease of access to pornography, you know? So at a young age, they're already seeing these potentially violent sexual encounters, and it just fucks them up mentally. Seeing that kind of thing in like a hormonal state as a teenager is just not good. It's not a normal thing. And I did see a couple people comment being like, oh, well, you jacked off to porn at 12 and other shit, so you're being a hypocrite. Why are you celebrating that? Why are you being like, yeah, no, that what I just said is perfectly fine. That children, young men, and probably women too, are exposed to probably violent sexual content at very young ages. How is that okay? Like, both can be wrong. You know that, right? It's not hypocritical to be like, yeah, both is wrong. Both are bad. Like, shocker take. You know what I mean? I think that young men and women shouldn't be fucking raped and preyed upon by these evil degenerates. Crazy fucking take in this. Apparently that's a crazy take in this day and age, as pedophilia becomes more and more normalized on the internet for some fucking odd reason. Again, I am not a licensed psychiatrist, so I don't know, but I do believe that that kind of thing does lead to this kind of thought process. But anyway, Yeah, I just think this whole fucking, and it's not just on these 3 videos, as I've said before. It's every single time I see a female predator, every single fucking time, whenever I go into the comments section, it's always just the same greasy, disgusting, fucking horrible, evil men in the comments being like, I wish that was me. Guess what? Every time that you say, I wish it was me, you are downplaying a victim's trauma. You are downplaying it. That's just what is happening, point blank and simple. You are downplaying their trauma, and you're advocating for it. You're saying that pedophilia is okay as long as it happens to one sex and not the other. I think that is disgusting. I think that is deplorable. And I think that narrative needs to stop, like, soon. It needs to fucking quit. Then it leads, because, okay, here's another thing that I think is great, or not great. It's none of this is great. This is all fucking horrible. But you'll have people like this, you know what I mean? You'll have men like this that say that they're okay with this kind of bullshit, which, guess what? When this happens, this mentally destroys people. You know what I mean? These are victims. These are not heroes. These are not cool kids. These are not anything. These are victims. That is what they are. However, whenever a woman on the internet says anything about her experience with sexual assault or rape or anything like that, they'll all say either, what was she wearing? Or they'll be like, oh, but what about men? You know, what about us over here? We have the highest suicide rate or whatnot. Yeah, we do have the highest suicide rate. And you want to know why we do? It's because of us. It's because of our community. It's because of the way we men have been brought up in life. It is because of us. It's not because of women. It's not because of anybody else. It's because of us. And we need to do better to help our fellow men. We need to do better to uplift them, to tell them that they're worth something in this life. Instead of just being like, instead of telling victims that that if they feel like they've been wrong, that if they feel like they're a victim, that they're wrong. Because I wished it happened to me, because I want to be molested for some odd fucking reason, because I myself am not normal. You know what I mean? I myself am not mentally right in the head because I want to be sexually molested as a 14-year-old. That's basically what they're saying. But anyway, you can't say that on a fucking post about a woman's experience being like, oh, what about us? And then not give a shit when it's one of the most mentally damaging things that can happen to a young person. You can't have it both fucking ways, dude. It's either you care about the mental stability and health of men everywhere, or you want to be sexually molested by a older person. You can't have it both ways. You can't be both. It's not fucking possible. I think all these men being like, oh, it's women that are really the problem here. It's not us at all. No, it's us. We are the problem. And you need to come to terms with that. And it's fine as long as you know what is going, as long as you are aware that you can do things, you can take steps to prevent this kind of thing. Like maybe quit being like, hey, I want to be sexually molested by somebody older than me when I was a child. Maybe you could be like, man, sorry to hear that. I hope everything goes well. You know, I hope a speedy recovery for the victim. I hope he goes to therapy and I hope he's okay. Instead of giving empathy, instead of giving kindness, we always just resort to lust, to disgusting acts of sexuality. Now, I'm not trying to downplay sexuality, masturbation, or anything like that. I myself enjoy the idea of being with a woman my own age. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that all sex is bad, obviously. I'm saying that pedophilia is fucking wrong no matter what it is. Okay. And I don't really understand why a lot of older men just don't understand this concept. And then some of them will use, that South Park episode where Ike, a literal baby, is being sexually molested by his teacher. You remember that whole episode? And it was basically poking fun at what I'm saying here. And then the cops were like nice and like high-fiving each other, being like, we need to give him his luckiest boy award or whatever the fuck. They were using those kind of things unironically. So that also means that these people have a literal brick in their fucking head, because anybody with a frontal lobe could watch that episode and be like, oh, they're obviously making fun of this kind of thing, and being like, oh, this is bad, this is evil, this should not take place. You know what I mean? But these people are using it unironically to support the exact thing that South Park was making fun of. So it just shows that they have no media literacy at all, which is not shocking. These people usually have like 3 IQs. They're just like not very very smart people. Anyway, I've been yapping for 25 minutes with this whole thing, so I guess I'll let you guys go. But I just wanted to bring this to your attention, and I mainly wanted to bring this to men's attention. We have the highest suicide rates for a fucking reason, and it's mainly because of us. That is the only way that you can really slice it. It is down to us doing shit like this. Okay. Now, obviously, am I saying it? Is it all because of us? No. Obviously, there's going to be circumstances. I'm sure there's percentages that have been attributed to other factors. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is just saying that as a blanket statement is fucking crazy, and it's just not true at all. It can't be true. However, it can't. Us doing this kind of shit can't help. But anyway, yeah. Thanks for watching, I guess. Hopefully this didn't really down. It probably did down your mood. I don't know what I'm saying. But yeah, now you're at least aware of it. You're aware of my opinion and stance on the matter. I think it's just abhorrently wrong and just downright evil. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed today's video to some degree. And yeah, that's really about it. Love each and every single one of you. Hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And yeah, bye.